Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Privileged and Confidential podcast. Today is a special guest, my good friend and client, Daniel Steinberg, who's the founder and CEO of LawBrokr, a pre-qualification platform that helps lawyers humanize the way clients interact with their law firm. Daniel, I'm so excited to catch up with you today.
It's been too long. Thanks, Francesca. I'm happy to be on here.
Okay, so when we first met, it was COVID days. I think it was like Instagram, Clubhouse, like COVID days. Everyone's locked away. We met
We were
online.
Clubhouse friends.
Yeah, it was great. And then you reached out to me and you said, I have a great idea. I'm starting a company. We need to get this thing trademarked. It's going to be a real business. It's going to be successful. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So we did your trademark in the US, and then I know you did it in Canada as well. It's been a couple of years since that process. So can you just give us an update on LawBrokr, what it is now, and how it helps lawyers?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot, and thankfully I have a good lawyer on my side here that broadened the scope of our mark and word marks. That's great. I think we have two marks through you. We've got LawBrokr from a name mark perspective, and then we've got Simplifying Legal as sort of like our subcategory and subheading there, which is really exciting, and that's what we're all about, right? If we think about the vision of LawBrokr and the evolution of what we've always stood for, it's how do we simplify consumer experiences to ultimately help them engage with law firms like yours. We've, since you and I have chatted last, we've expanded significantly into multiple different practice areas. We've evolved the product scope and the product as a whole. It's really interesting. Like when we first started, we started as this pre-qualification software for, solos and smalls. How do we make sure you don't waste time on dead-end consultations? We make it easier for consumers to understand what IP and trademarks even mean and how to engage with you and why it's important and all that good stuff. And as we've continued to bring on more and more clients of different sizes and different practice areas, our software has evolved a lot too. And it's changed sort of the way that we engage with law firms like yourselves. And we've almost evolved now into this core like marketing hub for law firms directly. And it sort of spans across different use cases dependent on practice area, what the needs are of firms like yours, and who the ultimately who we're engaging with. I'd say we sit at the intersection between marketing, operations, and intake at this point.
Awesome.
We have different use cases for each one of those sort of purposes, but we've never shied away from like our core value of simplifying that legal experience and simplifying legal as a whole.
That's so great because if for anyone that's familiar with startups, like literally you can have a startup that starts as one thing and then being flexible and being able to pivot is the whole crux of being a startup. And we actually did something similar. I started the firm thinking we were going to be a trademark firm and file trademarks globally. And then from there, our clients had different needs. They needed to start fighting, and then it turned into litigation. So I think that's wonderful. And, as someone who is very into marketing and branding, there are not a lot of law specific tools. And as lawyers become more online and more digital, I think having online tools that help you extend your presence online but connect with potential clients is really important. So I would ask you, how can law firms use LawBrokr? Like, what is it? If I were to say, Daniel, we need to sign up today, right? Like, what would that look like? And what does it look like? Like, what is LawBrokr?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's very dependent on how you ultimately utilize it and use it at its biggest capacity. But some of our best clients use it in different ways that I didn't even know about, right?
That's
I had a
cool.
client yesterday messaging me being like, you have to start telling all of your clients to start using LawBrokr for NPS scoring. People pay so much money for that, and I'm using your platform to do that on my own. And it's like, great use case. Thanks for letting me know. Now I'm going to say it on a podcast today. Little things like that, which are really unique and interesting. But at the end of the day, what's most core to us and important to us is we play into all the tools that you use. So there are so many different platforms and so many different law firms, and everyone has a different look and feel. They work with one agency, they work with a different agency, they work with Clio, they work with Filevine, they work with you name it. And for us, the most important piece of that tool set is we want to make sure that we're playing into your environment depending on what that looks like, in order to make sure that we're augmenting the work that you do as opposed to creating friction. And I'd say that's like our core bread and butter. Is the reason people adopt us and the reason that our customers can adopt our platform within 72 hours or less is because there's no friction when it comes to adopting our platform. In practice, what that looks like is we replace static contact forms on things like your website, marketplaces, social media, and so forth, and implement these conversational workflows in order to engage that end user. So sometimes people are like, oh, is that sort of a chatbot function? I'd say we sit in sort of the environment of a chatbot and phone. LawBrokr's a third way to engage from a digital transformation perspective in order to allow your clients to ultimately engage with your firm. And what's unique about Esca and the way that you think about the way that you do marketing and engage online and social media and things like that is LawBrokrr emulates the way that consumers shop for everyday goods and services. And that's what's important to us, is how do we make sure that there's not a line in the sand when someone's shopping for X, Y, or Z, and now they're trying to engage with a lawyer and there's this completely different experience. We're trying to bridge that gap.
And also like modernize the reality of being a lawyer. You have to sell. And it doesn't need to be salesy. And I know that sales has such negative connotations with lawyers, but the reality is you are online, your clients, your potential clients are online. So what I think LawBrokrr is offering is the ability to have, all of your digital presence, but be organized in where are you leading? Where are you funneling? And where are you putting your potential client? Because you could spend all day doing LinkedIn posts or blogs and writing articles, but if you are not guiding a potential client and making it super easy for them to engage with you, then you've lost. And I think that, can you talk a little bit about the importance of that for lawyers, and talk to the lawyers who literally don't understand marketing and haven't really thought about it, but now being faced with the evolving technology and understanding the inevitability and the unavoidability of being online, why do they need a marketing tool? At all?
It's incredibly important. And let's put the conversation of LawBrokrr to the side for a second. I'll just sort of define it as a whole as the importance behind adopting technology in this fashion, right? Obviously LawBrokrr falls into that, but let's take that out of the conversation. When law firms think about the overarching goal of their firm, at the end of the day, you're doing these specific things in place because you're trying to retain net new clients, whether you're engaging and meeting at conferences with someone like yourself for attorney referrals, or you're spending money on Google or Meta or YouTube or TikTok, or you're not spending money, but you're doing those things organically. The reason you are building a brand as a whole is so that you can retain net new clients, period. That is a fact. That is sales. That's how it works. Even if you're not actively saying, I'm doing this post because I want to sell a client and retain a client through that post, there are pieces that you have to build into your digital experience and tech stack in order to ultimately make sure that clients can convert into your funnel. And when I talk about conversion, I'm talking about web traffic conversion, the thing that happens far before the scope of work where you're now talking to a client during intake and retaining that client as a quote unquote conversion. So the things that you ultimately need to think about is, if and when a client remembers me and wants to engage with me, am I making it easy for them? Period, full stop. Mm-hmm. In today's world and in the digital landscape from law firms in specific, it's right now incredibly challenging. You look at a law firm's sort of website and other different converting tools, landing pages, et cetera, and they've got these static contact forms, which ultimately drive poor quality data, lack of standardization, the annoyance for the user, and ultimately the user doesn't know what they need help with. That's why they're trying to engage with you. Most law firms think that in that case, a consumer will call them. And that's great. That's gold standard. Let's have consumers call you. But there's this whole other world of 78% of legal consumers trying to engage digitally. And that's the pocket that's ultimately missing. Are you creating an experience that makes it easy for the end user to ultimately engage with your law firm? And if the answer is my law firm's engagement tools are worse than Apple, Walmart, Amazon, and all these different tools that you use every single day, then something is broken. And that's ultimately what you need to fix and focus on from that perspective.
And what's also great about technology is that with the evolution of technology, things become cheaper, right? So it used to be, oh, you only really could use Salesforce. And I remember like 10, 15 years ago, a firm I worked for tried to integrate it and it was so expensive and clunky and not tailored. So the double-edged sword is like, yes, you need to start using technology to keep up with the times, and that may feel like a burden, but on the other side, it's so much easier today because of, even just think of like all the legal tech, like LawBrokr and, you know, CleoCon, which we'll be at, and we could talk about for a little bit. There's so much technology that's coming out that's legal specific that makes it so easy for lawyers, but where people are going to get stuck is in the gap and making the bridge and just accepting, okay, technology is evolving, I cannot get left behind. And if you are feeling like that, like I don't even know where to begin, LawBrokr is a wonderful way to begin because it's so simple. It's like for us as we use LawBrokr, we use the contact form. So we're able to build out our own branded specific contact form, capture that data that can then lead our potential client to book calls. So even just having something as simple as that, instead of making your potential client guess on how to reach you, then you are at least starting. So I would say as like a summary takeaway, technology is here. And it may feel overwhelming, but it's not, because the ability to integrate it is as easier as ever, and it's really cheaper than ever.
Yeah, no, and that's a great summary. But yeah, I think like that problem set starts with, do I understand the digital landscape of my business? Like again, like putting LawBrokr aside, because this isn't a sales pitch for us, but putting this to the side, understand the digital landscape and what's broken versus what's not. If you have an in-house marketer, great. They probably know those answers. If you don't have an in-house marketer, ask your agency partner. If you don't have an agency partner, go and learn those tools on your own. Look at Google Analytics, some of your website tools, and it will be incredibly shocking to you how much opportunity is left on the table when it comes to your digital experience. And that's ultimately the first stage.
I think that's when we started having these conversations, it was so early. It was 2020, it was COVID, everyone kind of forced to get online, and it was like, okay, should I use social media? We are so beyond that, okay? If you are not on LinkedIn, right? Like, what is happening? Where are you? Does a tree fall if it falls in a forest and no one hears it? Like, you need to be online. Having a digital presence is equally, if not more important than your physical presence. So hopefully for people watching this, they understand like technology is important. So can we talk about
They're following you? I'm sure they do.
Oh my gosh, it's funny, I'm not even trying to stay ahead. I'm really just like, hey guys, like this is the future. This is the present that we're in. Like getting online, that was 5-10 years ago, but now integrating into business is so important. But can we talk about CleoCon, because I see you there and I'm speaking there, and it's going to be a really great time. Can we talk about like why is CleoCon an important piece of what you do, like your annual events? Like what about CleoCon makes you going?
Yeah, this will be so for background, I used to work at Clio. I was on their partnerships organization over there before I started LawBrokr. So this is going to be my 5th or 6th. I don't even remember now, CleoCon, from being, an employee there to now a partner of theirs from an integration perspective. Obviously, there are a ton of legal conferences. I think CleoCon will be like my 4th in 3 weeks or something crazy like that. But the reason that it's such a valuable conference for the most part is because it's really for the folks that are sort of evolving and thinking about technology. And that's why it's important for us as a vendor and a partner. A lot of the people that are going to CleoCon are going because they're trying to up-level their skill set in some capacity or another, whether they're listening to folks like yourself on up-leveling and understanding what other law firms are doing with both Clio, but both in general from a branding and implementation and operations perspective. But subsequently to that, Clio is one of the most robust app ecosystems with 250 plus app partners that can integrate into their systems to make you more operationally efficient. And when you think about that, the world of folks that go to ClioCon are thinking about different tools in place that make them better. So for us, we really enjoy going because we're talking to innovative leaders that are always thinking, how do we get one step ahead in order to make sure that our law firm is set up for success leading into the new year? And I think that's what's so valuable for us when it comes to ClioCon as a whole. Outside of that, it's just fun to, catch up with folks that are your customers, partners, potential customers, folks that you're connected with online, people that you've done podcasts with. It's such a mass user base. And I think 3,000 to 5,000 people go there on an annual basis, that it gives you opportunity to just go and have fun and let loose at the same time.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So, Daniel, what else do you have? We'll see you at ClioCon, but do you have anything else in the pipeline for LawBrokr or for Daniel Steinberg?
That's a loaded question. What does that mean? Are we talking about
what's important to you?
Are we talking about going to new conferences? There's a lot going on. I think the evolution of LawBrokr will continue. Like, our goal is never stay complacent, evolve as our law firms evolve and evolve with our law firms. Obviously, that has elements of adopting new AI tools and empowering our law firms to ultimately understand the marketing function of their firm better. But outside of that, and outside of like the LawBrokr function, it's really just like keeping our head down and making sure that we're supporting everyone that we talk to and engaging with great people and helping ultimately like spearhead this change within the legal environment. I've seen it sort of so quickly change since my time at Clio, 6+ years ago to now coming up on 4 years. I guess that's exciting for me. We're coming up on 4 years in like 5 days now. So
amazing.
Pretty insane as a startup. 4 years is a very long time. So just like looking back at where the legal industry has shifted to, with tools like AI, but also just like, when I first started in legal tech, you look at a lot of law firms and it was so antiquated and it's just shifted so quickly, which is so exciting, right? And for multiple different reasons. But more importantly, like just seeing an evolution of an industry and change and, spearheading part of that change is really cool.
Well, it's been great to get to work with you using LawBrokr and as a client and seeing you in the community. So keep going. We're here to root you on and continue to support. What's the best way that people can reach out to you if they want to learn more about LawBrokr?
Yeah, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, Daniel Steinberg on LinkedIn. You can also visit our website if you're looking to learn a little bit more about LawBrokr, LAWBROKR.com. Make sure you don't hit that E in between the K and the R. Always happy to chat, engage, and just meet new people. I love having these conversations.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and everyone will see you back here next week.
Thank you. Can't wait. See you soon.